and I love it. From here, after high school, he continued his running and his studies at Danville area Community College, and he earned All-American honors in the 3,200-meter relay. And now he has had much success with his athletes. His athletes have earned 63 all-state medals and have produced 9 state trophies. First place in cross country in 2014 and 16, and second in 2018 for the girls. So the boys have been successful as well. And Robin and I have had a chance to really get to know Jason over the past year. And what sets him apart from to us is that he really embodies the qualities of a coach who wants the best for his athletes, not only as runners, but he's thinking about them in 10 years from now as humans, as people who are navigating this world on their own journey. And he continues to challenge the people around him to think beyond the running and how we can support our student athletes as high schoolers and continue them on their journey. So we're excited to have Coach Retz. And joining him today is one of his athletes, Ava Knapp. So welcome, Ava. She is involved in NHS, High Honor Roll, Student Council, and FCA. I had to read all those so I wouldn't forget them. Ava is the valedictorian for her class and is actively involved in cross country and track and field. As a distance runner, Ava was the first of her class to log both 1,000 and 2,000 lifetime miles. She has plans for future running in college and getting a degree in biomedical sciences. So it's cool to see your future evolving. And together they're going to talk about how you can start developing as leaders in your own unique way. They will explain the different examples of leadership and the strengths that each member of your team can bring to leading your team. So I'm going to get out of the picture so that you guys can launch into this. Robin, did you make Coach Retz a co-host so he can share?
They're both co-hosts.
Great. All right, we'll let you take it over. Thank you, you two.
Cool. Well, thank you very much. I'll pull the screen up here. All right. Thank you very much. This has been very entertaining and insightful. I'm learning a ton, and I really appreciate it. The things that you're covering are so helpful. You need to do a coach's edition of this too. I'm just telling you that's going to be helpful when we get out there. So I'm Coach Retz, and Ava's up here on the screen as well. She is a junior for me. One of the things I want you to do right now is get a piece of paper out in your journal or whatever you've got. Okay. On that piece of paper, I want you to think about your team specifically. Okay, what you're going to do is you're going to draw a box. You don't need to make the puzzle pieces yet, but in that box, I want you to think of each member of your team, or maybe the leaders of your team or the captains, and their strengths. What words would you associate with them as the strengths that they have? So I'm going to give you about 45 to 60 seconds to write it down. So make it quick. Okay, so think of everybody you've got that has some of those traits. So draw a box, write some of those things in there. All right, you can keep writing as we go. Okay, let me tell you about Ava just a little bit here, okay? Ava is a junior on our team. She's been running across here for 7 years. She is one of 4 leaders that we had on our cross-country team this past year. We've picked one up going into track season. She's an older daughter and she loves donuts. I witnessed that firsthand. That's Ava. You can see here her with her team. We were lucky enough to compete. The bottom here, standing in front of the scoreboard, is at Laverne Gibson. We are not very far from Laverne Gibson, where they have the NCAA championships. So they got to run a championship race there this year. So it's pretty cool to be able to actually be in a big field. We were lucky enough to compete, but we have very small field sizes, so it was nice to have a little bit of normalcy there. Okay. All right, so here's how it's going to work. I've said almost everything I'm going to say. Now Ava's going to take over a lot of this. All right, I think it's really important that you hear from her because she is a growing leader on our team with some of the others, and she is going to explain some of the struggles and the difficulties with this as we go. So, on you, Ava.
All right. Hi, guys. I'm Ava, obviously. So I'm just going to take it from here. So before we start this whole presentation, I think it's important to be honest about the situation, but not in a negative light. Leading is hard. It's definitely a challenge. I had absolutely no idea how scary leading was until the leaders before me left. I felt this huge pressure and responsibility, and it's really scary. I'm going to tell you that things are not going to run smoothly. You're going to cry and panic and freak out and get really frustrated, and all the emotions of those lovely emojis I put on that screen. And you're trying to juggle your own athletic career while helping other people. And it's a challenge, but it's also really rewarding to do so. And you're going to have better connections with your teammates your entire life.
Did we miss one? Okay, there we go. We're out of order.
Okay. So me and Rhett modeled this progressive chart of being a leader. Think of it like stair steps. Each role is moving up on the leader scale. And the more involved you and active you are as a leader, the higher up you go. So I'm going to talk about my journey, and hopefully you can resonate with you and you can find where you kind of fall in. I want to note that I didn't even step in a vocal leadership role until the start of my junior year. So I'm very new at being the vocal leader. I've done all of these roles my whole career. So my role model stage started off in middle school, actually in 5th grade, so at the very beginning. I did cross country to be with my friends and to train for soccer because that was my sport. And I really found a passion for it. I really loved running. And my middle school coach instilled this passion in me for running, and he fueled my fire. And not only did he teach me how to love the sport, but he helped me take my passion in running and do something with it. So I started to get really involved with the sport and just loved being there and doing it. The next year, I got the opportunity to follow someone else's lead, and this was really influential on me too. My coach gave me the opportunity to run with the varsity group when I wasn't in varsity. Basically, at the end of the year, postseason, all the kids who aren't in varsity are not allowed to come to practice anymore so that the older kids can focus on their more important races. But I had the opportunity to still show up because I was really excited and into it. I guess he gave me the opportunity. And because of that, I was surrounded by people who really loved running and later became key athletes in our high school program. So at an early age, I was just exposed to amazing people. And I think it really taught me who I wanted to be. And I looked up to them, and I wanted to make sure that I became that great of a person in my future. And now this is where I meet Rhett, and I learned the importance of encouraging others. After my cross-country season of 8th grade year, my class of high schoolers who were running got the opportunity to train with the high schoolers after school. Me and about 10 other teammates would show up and do all the high school workouts, lifts, and auxiliaries. This was a huge step up in intensity, and we all started to suffer. It was really bad. I remember not being able to climb up the stairs. It was so hard. And I'm not kidding. It was hard. Me and my teammates encouraged each other through it though. And I learned that simple things like high-fiving a teammate after a run or texting someone to say thank you for pulling me through a workout went a long way and really helped us get through the challenge. As a freshman, I learned the importance of setting an example. I learned how important it was to be an example no matter what role you have on the team or in life in general. When I showed up for races as a freshman, and I wasn't in varsity, I wasn't as focused as I should have been. And I didn't understand the influence of the way I carried myself had on other people. And I learned from other teammates and role models that you had to carry yourself with the good intentions and be there for them. From that point on, I showed up to every meet with intention and focus, and I carried myself the way my leaders did everywhere, not just at practice. And I try to reflect that to this day. So now I'm a vocal leader, and me too. Now I'm a vocal leader, but this just started my junior year, so I'm pretty much new at it. But I do want to point out that it's no longer my own journey. It's the journey of me and the three other leaders on our team. So all the pressure is on us as leaders and not an individual. The team is our responsibility, and everything that happens on the team is on us. The more ownership we take as athletes, the closer to the team we will be. So everything's a we. We all work together to plan schedules and keep everybody in line and make sure everyone's communicating, and really just kind of take ownership and responsibility as much as we can.
I think that one of the key points that Ava mentioned along the way is the relationship she had first with her junior high coach, then with her teammates that were older than her as she watched. And then as she continued into high school, she started to develop that relationship with me. I think that that is the number one priority you have to have if you are going to be a leader. Think about your coach, how many people that they have to interact with on a daily basis and form that relationship with. You have to do the same thing if you're going to be a quality leader. It may not be every single person, and we're going to talk about that here in a minute, but you've got to really focus on how you communicate and how you develop relationships with your teammates. The communication you have with your coach, if you're going to be a leader, is very important because they've got to trust you more than anyone. Okay. So you both have to be on the same page all the time and know what's going to get done, needs to get done is going to get done. And that is, we're all going to make mistakes. Us as coaches, we make mistakes all the time. And you as a leader, you're learning, and we understand that. And so we're trying to help you along this journey, because at the end of the day, I don't care how fast Ava runs, right? She's developing traits that are going to make her successful in anything she does. Right, her leadership and just her presenting here in front of 200 people is going to be something that she's going to take with her forever. So that leadership goes way beyond running. And if you revolve it around who they are as people, it's going to be very beneficial for you. Okay. And the last one we're going to talk about all the time, leaders are always learning. Just remember that. You're going to see that again.
And I also think it's important to note really quick that not only do these need to be good relationships, but they need to be consistent relationships. Just like in your running, you get out the door every day, you need to make sure you communicate with your teammates constantly and your coaches. All right, leadership passion is unique. This slide is mine because it resonates with me, and I really wish that somebody would have told me these things going into high school, because it would have been really helpful. So I'm hopefully going to enlighten some of you today. I'm here to tell you that there's always going to be a disconnect between you and your team. This is because your passion is unique. The fact that you signed up for this clinic on a weekend tells me that you guys really love running, and that's awesome. But not everyone thinks the same way you do. This is something I didn't understand until this summer. Not everyone has the same passions, purpose, and identity in running as you do, which means they might struggle to get things done correctly. If you want to be an effective leader, you have to study your teammates. Each and every one of them is unique. Find their whys, then find a way to translate what you're thinking into a way that they can understand it. Personally, my experience with being an extremely passionate person on the team was I always felt like I had this disconnect between me and my teammates. I thought more like a coach than I did an actual athlete. And I would scare people when I talked about running. There was always this intimidation factor between me and my other friends and teammates. And it made me feel like I was doing something wrong. And wanting to develop into a leader, I felt like I had to learn how to dull my passion so that I could be better. And that's really not the case at all. There's nothing wrong with you being passionate about running, and your drive will take you very far in life. It's definitely your superpower, and you should be proud of it. Also, I'd like to point out that they're intimidated with you because you're probably setting the bar really high. I constantly have this fire in my belly because I'm passionate, so it's really easy for me to check all the boxes. A lot of people don't have that from day to day. Like it's not a constant passion. So they know they're not checking all the boxes and they probably feel like they're letting you down. This is where you come in and you can help them get it done. You cannot give up on the people who aren't passionate. Being a good teammate means helping them to do what they struggle with. And you're going to have to translate what you're thinking into something that they can understand. So here's a few examples of that. I don't know if your guys' teams have logging or journaling, but it's definitely a fundamental of our program, and it takes about 2 minutes to do it because we have an online setup. And it's really frustrating when I see athletes not doing that and taking the time to do it, because typically they're not getting the other stuff done if they're not logging. And instead of just being frustrated with them for not getting it done, I typically have a conversation that kind of explains the importance of it. I normally say something along the lines of, our team philosophy is focused on ownership and accountability. If you're struggling right now, start with logging because it's taking ownership of your running. Another example that I have is explaining workouts. My main role on the team as being a leader is the Reds translator. So whatever workouts we have for the day, I explain it to the team and so that they can understand what the goal is and the purpose of the day. I normally would want to give a long, detailed explanation behind the science and for the workout of the day. But in reality, that's not going to be effective at all. No one's going to know what's going on, and none of us are going to be on the same page. And it's boring to a lot of people. So you definitely have to take a different approach. I try just setting the tone and just establishing what the purpose is. Normally, I say something along the lines of, hey, today's the day to make gains on your fitness and run up with the pack. You got this. Just something really encouraging that makes it clear what the goal is. Like in that situation, we're trying to run up. Like we need to run together, run up. It sets the tone. It makes it clear what the day is. You don't have to go into that much detail.
I think it's really important that Ava understands what I'm trying to get across because she's studied and she's listened. And I'm guessing that a lot of you are the same way because you're here. If you know what your coach is saying and there are struggles in translation, you need a translator as a coach. There's got to be somebody on your team you can rely on to look at. Sometimes I'll look at her and say, do they get it? And she'll tell me, yes, they get it, or no, they don't. And that helps both of us along the way. So maybe that's your role. Maybe that's your strength in the start of your leadership. Okay. All right. Now, so we're going to talk about our puzzle. Okay. So what you've started to do, hopefully, and you've thought about is the strengths of your teammates as you go. Okay. Every leader on your team is like putting a puzzle together, and there's a strength, and we're going to show you here as we go. Every single leader on our team has a strength. So what we've done, or Ava's done here, is she has started putting the names of our leaders together and what their strength is. Each one of them has their own superpower. Okay, Taryn's compassionate. Kaylin is definitely an interpreter. Mal is confident. Ava is my translator, and Ashlyn is the voice of our team. Okay, they all fit together as puzzle pieces to help our team. Okay, here are the rest of the people that are showing up consistently. Each one of them has their own strength. Right? They are all puzzle pieces. We may not say directly that they are leaders, but they lead in their own way. Kelsey is very hardworking. Okay. Now, what we want to do is we want to connect all those pieces together. Okay. So what I want to encourage you to do is now think about the rest of the pieces on your team as we go and how they can connect to make this puzzle. Okay. It's very important that they connect together. I'm not in there. Okay. I'm probably a puzzle piece, but I don't have to be a puzzle piece because this is their team and their program. Okay. So every person has their own role. You've got to figure out what the superpowers are of the people on your team. They could be different. Okay. Use Kaylin for an example. Kaylin's a very good interpreter. She is one-on-one, can help every single person out on the team. Ava does a great job translating to the whole team, but Kaylin can go one-on-one with someone and help them out. Taryn is very compassionate. If somebody's struggling, she is the first person to go over and talk to them and see how they're doing. She knows her role on the team, and she does an outstanding job taking advantage and doing that. Not everyone has to lead the same way. I think that we are better leaders as a group because everyone knows their purpose. That doesn't mean that Ava can't be compassionate towards someone, but we know that that's what Taryn does best. Okay? It's important that you identify your roles with your others. We sat down as a group and we found out what our superpowers were. We wrote them on a board. Okay? And it's important that you take ownership of what your superpower is. Okay? If you don't know your role, that's okay. Remember, okay, you're always learning as a leader. These people who are not designated leaders on our team, we're starting to find what their superpowers are before they call themselves leaders. Okay? Tegan is very supportive. When she is an upperclassman and she's ready, that's going to be her superpower for us. Okay? It is very important that every single person on your team be treated with a positive thought, right? And identifying that for them. That's something that they can lean on. Okay? And there's nothing wrong with just leading by example. Okay? Some people have leaders, some people have captains that they nominate, but it's really important that you understand that every single person on your team is a puzzle piece that is going to help you with success. Ava, what would you say is the most difficult part about finding those people and connecting those pieces together?
I think a lot of times on the team dynamic, you plan who the leaders are. Like, we know there are 4 leaders on this team set in stone. And I think a lot of the times, a lot of the other athletes get overlooked because typically there's always like a captain. Like, in our heads, there's only one person or a few people who are leading, but in reality, there's a lot of people who we'd be worse off without. And like, each person brings their own unique influence to the team. So no matter what your role is on the team, I genuinely think that you're leading somehow, and you just kind of have to figure out what that is.
So how do you get started? Right? This is really tough for somebody. Your program may be great at this, but if they're not, or even if you're learning and you're young, okay, remember, it's going to be really, really hard. Ava has cried a lot, and I know she doesn't mind me saying that. Okay? She shed a lot of tears over this. It's really hard, and you have to understand that, and that's okay. Okay? You're always going to be learning every single day. As coaches, one of the great things is I'm learning every single day. Every time I talk to someone, I try to pull something. I don't know how many clinics I've sat in or how many Zoom calls over this time, but I love it. And I love learning from the greatest people. That's the best part you can do as a leader. Figure out how to share your passion. Ava struggled with that. Every leader I've had has struggled with learning how to do that. You're going to screw up. You're going to make mistakes. That's okay. Hopefully your coach will help you figure it out along the way. And hopefully you've got some mentors you can lean on. Maybe somebody who's already graduated, you can call up and say, in tears, I'm struggling with this. What do you do? Right? Have somebody to lean on. You're only on an island by yourself if you think you are. You've always got people there to help you. Okay? Put your puzzle together. Right? You may have made your box. You got to maybe throw that out now and start over again. Think about the strengths your teammates have. Okay? And last, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to lead. There's a stereotype sometimes. Oh, the leader, they're big, bad, and ugly, and they're gonna hurt somebody's feelings. It doesn't have to be that way. Okay? Sometimes you want to, but it doesn't have to be that way. Okay? So do not be afraid to lead. Okay? It's a great way to get started. Okay? Ava, you got anything to add?
I'm trying to think. I don't think so. You can ask questions though.
I'll stop my share here.
Perfect. That was so awesome. It's so fun to see the two of you as a coach and an athlete come together to share that. So, are you guys okay if we move into some questions, if people have some? Okay. You guys, if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. But I have a question as a coach and also thinking about myself as an athlete. What do your conversations look like around your team, whether it's from you, Coach Retz, or it's from you, Ava, in terms of these puzzles and how people fit in? Like, you presented to us, but how do you talk with your team?
It's very similar. When we sat down and did this thing, I sat down with a dry erase board in my living room and we wrote everyone's name and we put their superpower next to it. I think it was everybody have their own strength, and we started there. And then we talked about how we could effectively help our team as need be, because some of you may only have one or two true leaders or positive traits or small teams. You may have to take on bigger roles than those one or two things. But luckily, the people we had or have currently fill a lot of positive roles. Ava, what does it look like with you guys when I'm not there?
So we definitely did a lot of this over the summer. So I can actually share like one experience that comes to mind. On summer training, we haven't seen Rhett for about 6 months. He hasn't been allowed to be in contact with us because of COVID. So we've been meeting up every day, getting in our runs. Well, when we could start meeting up. And everyone was on different pages when this happened, all kind of struggling to try to find where we were at as a team. Everyone was in different places. And that was a really stressful time for me because I just had ambitions for the season and our team and what we were capable of. And I just felt like it was like stressful. And I started noticing specific athletes and the things they were bringing to practice every day. And one of the girls that I constantly thought about was Caitlin Baker. She isn't really a cross country runner. She has knee issues, so she can't even really like run distance, but she's super competitive. And every day she just shows up ready to compete with you no matter what the day is. And it brings a really good drive to our team. And she just showed up and did it with no expectation. It was just her personality. And one day I just pulled her aside while we were cool down, like running a cool down or walking a cool down. And I just had a conversation with her about the impact she was having on the team and the things she was doing, just kind of highlighting what she had. Because honestly, I don't think people realize what their traits are until someone brings it out. And when I see that, I make an effort to pull them aside and have a conversation with them about it, because that's something that they can be proud of and something that they can put into their purpose and their why and their everyday to day things.
And sometimes that message from a peer can feel really authentic, right? We've got a lot of questions here. Let's move to this one. Ava, I believe this is for you, but maybe it's for you too in your past, Coach Retz. Have you felt becoming this leader in running has helped you outside of athletics?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, leading gives you a lot of good traits and teaches you how to juggle a lot of things at once. It's a constant stressor, but really rewarding. The biggest thing that's impacted in my day to day life is definitely relationships. I know how to communicate really well with anybody and start to build a relationship, even if I don't know someone really well. For example, when I applied to a job or I got my first job this summer, I was able to communicate really well with my boss just because it's just natural to me. There's a lot of different aspects in your life, but I think it really does shape your character and how you handle things day to day.
An employee of the month in the first month, right?
Yeah, I think they just wanted me to stay there, but
Add that to your bio. Next time you present, we'll add that in. Employee of the month.
okay.
This is probably a good question for both of you. What do you do if people aren't confident in their coach and maybe they don't think their coach likes them? And you love running and you're really excited about it. What piece of advice do you guys have?
So I'm going to just start with this. Until they really get to know me, I think most of our athletes are scared to death of me. I'm 6.5 feet tall. I'm a pretty big guy. And so I think it is a little intimidating, but I really think that we try to model with some of our leaders. We talk about, conversations that we may have one-on-one. We want to have those in front of the team because that's going to help build a relationship. And those other athletes that may be intimidated can actually see our personalities and see my personality and how we're going to help each other. So sometimes conversations that would be one-on-one, we try to have in front of the entire team, have them ask questions that people are intimidated maybe to ask, knowing, hey, it's okay. He's not going to bite your head off kind of thing. Is that probably the best way we do it, Ava?
Yeah, we definitely make a point to make fun of Rhett's and kind of bring his ego down a little bit in practices just to make him a little bit more human and a little less scary. And I mean, I know what it's like because I always felt struggled with that intimidating. Like I was intimidating to people. And I mean, I am Rhett's translator, like that's my job. So a lot of the time kids are scared of him, but you can still communicate the purpose or the training or anything that they if they're running and they're trying to follow the coach, but they're weary of the coach, you can help them and just be their coach, kind of like translate what the coach is saying to them and make fun of them because if they're okay with it, make sure you have to communicate, but that is a good tactic and it's pretty fun.
I love that. So we probably have time for one or two more questions. Uh, what would your advice be for drama on the team, girls arguing, not getting along? What would your advice be there? Maybe as a leader or as someone who's trying to find a voice on your team?
So your team is probably your family and the people you spend the most time with. I know that I spend more time at practice and with these girls than I do at my actual house. So I'm around them all the time. And I can't tell you how many times we've gotten in arguments or we're in a bad mood one day and we have like little fights while we're running. And it's completely normal to expect a team that runs smoothly. That it's not perfect. Like everyone argues and it's normal. It's part of being a teenager too with hormones. But I do think it's important to make sure the way you carry yourself is positive. Like make sure that you carry yourself in a way that's not degrading anybody else on the team. Like you're always positive. You're always trying to see the best in people. You're always making sure that what comes out of your mouth is nice and influential because it just starts with one person. If one person is positive, it can really make you're gonna have a ripple effect. If one person is negative, it can drag everybody down. And you can have a conversation with them, but the best way to handle it is to start with you. And it really will. It'll translate into everything. People will start mirroring the way you act. So being that example, which I think is one of our steps, I forget which one it is, but it's one of our steps in the leader process.
And I always like to say through osmosis, right? If you get enough people doing the right thing, it's hard to do the wrong thing. So the more leaders you can have on your team doing it right, the less likely you're to have some of that drama. And that little bit of drama you have goes away a lot quicker when you got a lot of people on board doing it the right way.
Yeah. That's
You're
amazing.
never going to avoid it all.
Right. Right. And like you said, Ava, we're a family. Families go through that all the time, right? You're together a lot, different personalities, different ways of living, different passions. Our last question, I think you guys just answered, how, as you're younger and quieter, how do you evolve into a leader? So yeah, I think you guys did a great job with that. So we want to thank the two of you. That was so awesome. If anyone wanted to reach out to you, would you guys mind maybe putting your email or something in the chat? So if they have some questions for you, maybe they could reach out. But we want to honor everyone's time. We have 3 minutes. We don't have a lot to end with. Oh, yes.
Let me post that link for the form about being a coach. So, okay, so in 60 seconds, one of the things that I want to get more of is females in coaching. I've been coaching females for 17 years and they're awesome. You guys are absolutely awesome. And there needs to be more of you in the field. So what I'm doing, and we're working together to try to figure out a way to present some way to help you out. I've created a Google form. If you're interested in coaching at some point in your life, fill this out. Okay, let's see it and make sure it works. But I'm going to dump it in the chat there. You can click on it. Oh, shoot. I just made it. Send it to one person. All right. If you are interested in being a coach, fill it out. Okay. I'm not promising we're going to contact you immediately, but your passion is unique because you're here. So if you want to be a coach or you're interested in it, fill it out. All right.
Perfect. And we will put that in our email for either tomorrow morning or Monday or Tuesday when we send out the Zoom link. So if you don't get to it right now, that's fine as well. But we've had great conversations with Jason about how can we help continue this wonderful sport and get more women as coaches. And so we want to honor this great thing that he's doing. So please fill that out. Also on Padlet today, if you